I'd like to call this regular council meeting of January 26th to order. The first item on the agenda is a public hearing, and
we're accusing ourselves. No, please come at me.
Councilor Duke, you're accusing yourself of the public hearing because of vacation rental, and it's his property. Mr. Strachan, you are going to give us a presentation on this?
Thank you, Your Worship. Actually, to advise council, the applicant has withdrawn their application and provided a letter to council of their withdrawal. It reads as follows. After significant reflection, I determined to withdraw my application to rezone my property to vacation rental. At the time of making the application for rezoning as required, I declared that I had a conflict of interest and didn't participate any further with respect to the deliberations of Mayor and Council regarding my rezoning application. However, since then, suggestions have been made that I may have influenced the Mayor and other members of Council with respect to my rezoning application. If other members of Council have been influenced by anything that I may have said or done with respect to my rezoning application, that was wholly inadvertent on my part, and as that was never my intention. I have no wish to place Mayor and other members of Council in a position where members of the public may accuse them of acting in a manner that is partial to me, being a member of Council or otherwise acting inappropriately. Therefore, I have decided to withdraw my application. In light of the applicant's wish to withdraw their application, Your Worship, we recommend to Council that they also rescind first and second readings of the bylaw before you today and cancel the public hearing.
Okay. Councillor Dixon.
I'll make that motion, Your Worship, to rescind the first and second reading of 2096 zoning amendment bylaw.
Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Sauls. Discussion on the motion. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Just for those people that are here because of the public hearing, I hope that it was pretty self-explanatory. Councillor Duke has recused himself, but has written a letter that he's withdrawing his application for rezoning, and I think that was the right thing for Councillor Duke to do, but I think it's also worthwhile mentioning that it's a part of the price of sitting at this table is sometimes it affects your private business, and that's something that everybody has to take into consideration. The rules on conflict of interest are pretty strict, and council and myself, and for that matter staff, have to follow these rules to the letter of the law, and I hope that the public can understand the implications of sitting at this table and respect the decision that each individual council makes on their own behalf. There's lots of times, and I've been involved with it, where I'm sitting here making decisions that affect my livelihood, may end up costing me money, and that's a case of what's happened here. And I hope people can appreciate the job that everybody has to do around this table, and I commend Councillor Duke for doing the right thing and recognizing that there may be an issue and doing something about it. So having said that, we've rescinded the motion, and the public hearing is now cancelled. A couple of short announcements I'd like to make. Of course, everybody is well aware that we are into a process with the Big Eddy Water and the residents over there. We are getting in a lot of the petitions. There's still more that we're hoping to come in. There's been a lot of controversy. There's a lot of what I'd like to say is misinformation floating around. I met with some residents today, as well as a member of the Big Eddy Water Board. The Big Eddy Water Board is going to be hosting a phone-in radio show on Thursday morning at 10 after 8. We will be having a member of staff participating in that radio show, again, just to get the information out so that people that haven't signed their petition one way or the other have the information that they need. And I encourage those people that haven't filled out the petition, if they have questions, they can contact the water board, they can contact staff, they can contact people on council. but we want people to have as much information as possible so that they can make an informed decision on their behalf and on behalf of all of their residents. This community has gone a long way in enhancing and protecting the water of Revelstoke, and this is another step in protecting and enhancing the water quality and the fire flows in the Big Eddy area. And I really encourage people to really give it some serious thought, because it's not just your household that you're thinking about, you're also thinking about your friends and your neighbors and the businesses over in that area. I also want to remind everybody that the Carousel of Nations is on this Saturday from 4 to 7 p.m. It's always a great event at the community center, and I encourage people to participate in the Carousel of Nations. I'm looking for a motion to adopt the agenda with any additions. Councillor English, Councillor Nixon, all those in favor? Motion is carried. And I need a motion to adopt the minutes of the regular council meeting of January the 12th. Councillor Sells, Councillor English. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Is there any business arising from those minutes of January 10th? We have one delegation today, and John Sims with the High Tech Task Force. Mr. Sims, you have the floor.
Your Worship and Council. My name is John Sims, and this is Tracy Buckley and Jean-Marc Laflamme. We are here today as members of the High Tech Task Force, a committee created by City Council whose purpose is to provide advice and suggestions to City Council with respect to promoting and the development of a high-tech sector in Revelstoke. Technology is not just one sector. It's more of an ecosystem of the following subsectors: engineering and other services, information and communications, digital media and wireless, life sciences, clean tech and energy, manufacturing, digital arts and design. Promoting technology is not favoring any single sector. Why technology is important. Technology increases our quality of life, and medical advances help us live longer. The average human lifespan has increased about 20 years in the past 100. We are social, and technology enables communication, mobile devices, chat, Skype, etc. Technology increases our productivity and satisfies our curiosity and desire to learn. Instead of typewriters and encyclopedias, we now have word processors and the internet. Many of modern life's activities use products of technology, like airplanes, cars, microwave ovens. Technology in the BC economy. Approximately 87,000 are employed in the BC technology sector.
It's more than the oil and gas, mining and forestry combined.
It's approximately $12 to $14 billion industry. According to BC Stats, the majority of BC's 9,000 tech companies employ less than 10 people. The BC technology sector is small relative to other places like the US, individual states, and other provinces. I think we're at about 5%. The states is at 10. Overall, Canada is around 8 or 9. And tech-heavy jurisdictions push 20 to 30% of their regional GDPs coming from tech. Technology jobs, salaries are higher than average. And remote workers contribute positively to local economies. By 2020, 40% of the workforce will be freelance. We need to prepare, we need to help address the talent pool shortage and identify who among the tens of thousands of new workers can thrive in Revelstoke and what they require. This is a brief overview of our strategic priorities. To promote Revelstoke as being an innovative and technology-friendly community, this involves promoting and highlighting what we have or will soon have, market our tech resources that we have or soon will have, seek out remote workers, and take advantage of the fact that we have fiber to our door, which is a great marketing advantage we have for a short time. Identify challenges inhibiting attraction and retention of knowledge workers and technology companies to Revelstoke. We need to understand what stands in the way of an emerging regional technology sector. Is it housing, transport, mindset, culture, training, etc.? Next, foster a technology positive environment in Revelstoke. Spur mingling among technology professionals. learn from other cities, increase youth involvement, help them become creators, not consumers, and training and education. Next, actively work to identify and target specific technology opportunities. Does an incubator make sense? And how can it be created and funded? What do businesses need? We create a business center, more conferences, seek out established players like data centers or medium-sized companies, etc. Or many other sub-items in the report itself. The Provincial Rural Dividend Program. The following is lifted from their website. The Rural Dividend will support innovative and ambitious ideas and solutions with potential for the greatest impact on rural communities. Supporting rural community transition and stability, the Rural Dividend will be focused on the following priorities: building community capacity and quality of life, expanding learning and skill development opportunities, providing opportunities for rural youth to stay and return to their rural communities, encouraging collaboration and partnerships between rural British Columbians and First Nations. We believe that the implementation of the High-Tech Task Force strategy is very well aligned with these priorities, and the timing is perfect. Having the resources that the Rural Dividend Program can provide will greatly assist in implementing our strategy. We recommend the following: that City Council endorses the tech strategy dated January 2016 as submitted by the High-Tech Task Force. 2, that City Council establishes a technology advisory committee to oversee the implementation of this tech strategy. 3, that the City of Revelstoke make an application for funding to the new Provincial Rural Dividend Program to implement the tech strategy in Revelstoke. And 4, that City Council write to the members of the High-Tech Task Force, thanking them for their work in developing the strategy. Thanks to the committee volunteers, to Alan Mason and Brooke Burke, Nicole Furco, and to Council and your worship. We'd be happy to answer any questions.
Well, let me knock off one of your lists first, because I want to thank you guys for going through this. And I'll send that in writing to thank you to the committee for all of that. Considering something the other hand first.
Just wondering what the task force thought of the provincial government's idea of teaching all our children to be coders.
I think we unanimously love the idea.
As somebody that moved to this area because I can work in my field and love the outdoor sports here, something like coding is a job that you can do remotely, and with access to the internet you could work anywhere.
And in the UK, they recently reworked their education strategy to incorporate coding. And it's not just coding that the kids learn, they learn how to solve problems. And that is an important skill. I think we lag behind in Canada in that respect. So.
Councilor Brothers.
Just a question. I gather you're focusing on developing high-tech business here as opposed to encouraging all types of business that can use our high-tech.
Both.
Both, eh? Okay.
Yeah. It's very much part of the strategy is to enable traditional business to improve the quality of product and service using technology. It's a huge focus across the Kootenays. We were at the BC Tech Summit last week and really brought that to the table. Everybody there was not only just presenting digital tech, but very much a lot of improvements to our BC-based traditional industries.
Because I think what's been identified before is that we're isolated, but we can attract people who can use the internet and high tech for their businesses, and that's how we can get good people here, good jobs, and that type of thing. So I gather you're focusing on that as well.
That's the lowest hanging fruit, first priority.
And the Chamber's already had events in town that have brought technology advisors in for the local businesses, like teaching them how to use social media, which has benefited a lot of the small retailers here already.
Question, yeah, Councilor Nixon.
Just, Your Worship, this is something we should take to our strategic planning session and have staff kind of cost it out, what it would look like. And the BC dividend program is not coming out till March, is that correct?
We estimate that it will take about that long to put together an application, so the timing is good.
Just make sure it's on your iPad when you take it to the strategic planning. I don't want to see it written down. Questions from council? Councilor Lindo, I was waiting. You were gonna-
Well, yeah, I guess seeing no other questions jumping up right now, I'd like to take the opportunity as the representative, the council representative on this task force to thank John for chairing the committee, as well as the many other committee members who showed up for meetings over the past 8 months. I know we did finish the project a little bit ahead of time, although that was described to the computer people as glacially slow. But nevertheless, we did, in computer terms, it would have been much faster. But I learned a lot. I know just anecdotally myself, I went to the BC Tech Summit out of interest. And I think from a pragmatic local government perspective, there is so much opportunity just from government and so many supports available that we start to begin to be able to access when we start putting this sort of infrastructure and this planning in place. So I mean, that's just a base level opportunity. But in terms of what other opportunities and taking a look at what some of the other smaller communities in our region are doing to be successful already in attracting, companies like in Nelson that employ 65 people and work across North America. There's a lot of opportunity there, and I think the plan that's put forth that we'll discuss later in the meeting today has a lot of good points in it, and I'm really supportive of it, and it's because of the dynamic people who came and volunteered their time, and I'd like to thank John and everyone for doing that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other comments from council? Okay, we are going to be dealing with your recommendations later on in the meeting, but again, I want to, on behalf of council, thank everybody for the time and the efforts that they put in, and looking forward to more outcomes. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Thanks. Moving into old business, the first item, public participation policy. Anybody would like to do that? For motion? Somebody on
Motion that the City of Revelstoke Public Participation Policy, Policy A-23.
Motion by Councilor Brothers, seconded by Councilor Sells. Discussion on the motion. Councilor Nixon.
Just, Your Worship, I asked for this to come back with all of council here, and I think, again, this is something that will help guide us as we move forward through 2016 and beyond.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment to Mr. Chabot, and I thank him for bringing this forward, because I think it's going to be very helpful to us.
Any more discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Item B.
Your Worship, I'll bring that forward. I'd like to bring forward that the garbage collection and disposal bylaw number 2080, being a bylaw to provide for and to regulate the collection and disposal of garbage, be adopted.
Motion by Councilor Sells, seconded by Councilor English. Discussion on the motion.
Just some background on that, Your Worship. This is the new garbage collection and disposal bylaw required updating to reflect changes in the new collection service beginning February 1st. Bylaw has received first, second, and third readings December 22nd. Further to that, we've discussed this at the committee meeting, Public Works Committee meeting, a couple of times, and dealt with some of the issues that were brought forward by the public, and at this point I feel that they're ready to go forward.
I did bring up some concerns when this first came up, and I still have those concerns. I know that people in the community are as they're seeing the changes and the implications, are having some concerns, and I know that staff are going to be allowing a transition period to switch over. We're talking about smaller cans in one can, and we're going to ease into this thing. But some of the new concerns that I don't know that we've all thought about that have been brought forward to me over the last couple of days is that the bigger cans have wheels on the bottom. The small cans, for the most part, do not. And what about the people that have trouble physically able to carry these cans out to the street? And these are the kind of things that I'm concerned about. And I am going to vote in favor of this here, but I do have concerns, and I think that we could have left it at the 2-can system, and it wouldn't have changed our recycling, the amounts of that people are recycling, because people are committed to recycling, and I think that overall we're doing a very good job of recycling. But there is going to be, we've raised the price of the cans, which I'm concerned about, to $3 from $2. One can is being picked up, but again, this new issue of people getting the cans out to the curb without the wheels on the bottom, I think might be creating a little bit of a hardship. So I guess I'm going to ask Darren and Mike to monitor this and see how we're reacting to it, people are reacting to it. But anyways, we'll see how it goes. Councilor Brothers.
Just as a matter of procedure, is there any possibility of bringing this in on an interim basis to see how it all works out and to review it at a later date? Because I hear the concerns that part of the difficulty I think we have is that, yes, from a paper point of view and thought point of view, we put this forward, but in terms of practice, we don't know how well it's going to work until it is in practice and we're starting to see some concerns and should we take that into consideration and look at it?
Well, I guess it's looking at, we're into basically final reading and adoption, and I just throwing it out there, but yes.
Your Worship, the council can amend its bylaws at any time it wishes, so if those concerns remain unabated, because staff have a number of suggestions and a number of communications efforts, I guess, in line and plan to inform residents affected by these changes. I think as implementation rolls out, people get used to modest change solutions that we found. It will achieve council's objectives of waste reduction and diversion, even more so than it's taking place today.
So those residents that have trouble getting a can at the curb, I can give them your home phone number.
Please do.
Councilor Soldier, your hand up?
Yes, Your Worship, I brought up the same thing in emails both to my colleague, Councilor English, and to Mr. Kolanowski and Mr. Thomas this morning over some of the concerns that we had received via social media this morning. In dealing with the cans and the wheels and that sort of thing, I know that I have a can that has wheels on it. I believe it's small enough to meet the needs, and I didn't get a sticker on mine, so I'm hoping that that's the case, that there are small ones out there. But my concern is the same as yours, Your Worship, in dealing with some of this with people who have larger cans who need to have the wheels on them. And the comment was, can we still, they still utilize that can, put one garbage bag in. So Mr. Kolanowski said they're going to notify everybody that they need to have them cans, but in the same token, we need to monitor this.
Yeah. Okay, any other comments? Motion is on the floor. All those in favor? Motion carried. Thank you. New business. Anybody?
Your Worship, item 9A under new business. I move that bylaw number 2100, being a bylaw to amend the fees and charges of the city of Revelstoke, be read first, second, and third time.
Motion by Councillor Orlando, seconded by Councillor Sauls. Discussion.
Your Worship, this is an usual fees and charges review. The process is all of the fees and charges that are applicable to individual departments go through a committee meeting there, and then it's all consolidated into one document. In this case, the 67 pagers you have in front of you that talks about all the fees that will be changing, and that's pretty straightforward. It's a common document. I do note that at the very end of this document, there is a letter submitted by the Revelstoke Grizzlies, and I see that the general manager, Mr. Parents, in attendance here today with an objection to, or an ask for a revision on one of the specific fees for the hockey club. We did receive an ask sort of after we'd been through it at the committee level, and we thought the appropriate thing to do was to put it in front of council. So that's probably something that should be addressed now, and as well as looking at the overall fees increases and changes.
Councillor Mason.
I hear what Councillor Orlando's saying, but just one question for staff about the self-advocacy group. Will they fall into the category with their disabilities like youth does? Because we have youth clearly spelled out as not having to pay a cost per group. And that's a relatively new group that meets at the rec center. because they can't meet at community connections.
Your worship, they applied for a grant in aid in 2016, so they received a grant in aid and we have a room rent that
Okay.
Councilor Brothers?
I'll just make a comment with respect to Mr. Perron's letter and how we dealt with it in committee. I mean, we did take a look at it, we did think about it very seriously. But there's no doubt that the Grizzlies are a very, very important part of this community and bring a lot to this community. And yes, we understand that an increase is always hard to swallow. But in committee, we also took into consideration the fact that I think we did expand the liquor license, and we don't know what the repercussions in terms of good things that are going to come to the Grizzlies on that. So we thought probably it's appropriate to do this, and if we have to take a look at it later on, we'll take a look at it later on, but we thought this was a fair result.
So do we have an idea of this? See, when I first looked through this, and there's lots of pages here, I saw a minor increase in ice time, and I did not pick up on the fact that we're looking at a $30 per hour increase in the game. So what does that mean at the end of the day? Like, I know a 2.5 hour game, that means an extra $75, but how many games is that, and what does it mean to, like, at the end of the season?
Your worship, this year I believe they had 26 home games scheduled, so it would be applicable to home games. So it's about a $90 a game increase.
So it's like
$2,500.
$2,500.
3 hours of ice time.
Yeah. And is that happening, that $30 per hour increase? And I apologize, I didn't see this beforehand, but is that happening with anybody else, or is it just with the Grizzlies?
It's strictly with the junior B hockey team. The other ice users did receive a modest increase, like a rate of inflation, 2.5%. With the junior B team, we've looked at this over a number of years. So the Parks and Rec Committee was provided with a spreadsheet of other municipalities and how they deal with their junior B teams in terms of practice time and game time. So the rate that we chose was, I think, well below the average as well. So it's still quite low compared to what other junior B teams pay in other municipalities. And this reflects the cost of additional staff on hand for the game times. So that was the reasoning behind the amount.
Your worship, it says in their letter that they're looking to raise money to get a new charter bus. So that's an impact on the team. You know, they need a good safe bus going down that highway.
Well, I guess my concern is that it seems like the Grizzlies are in, and I don't know if this is the right word, of a rebuilding, and I know that they've had over the years had a tough time, and if things are slowly getting better, it seems like one of the opportunities that we have to raise the fees, and I'm a little bit concerned about it because I think that they provide a great recreation for the community, and they also provide leadership to the minor hockey, and the kids look up to these guys, and they provide a good service in town. So I'm a little bit concerned. It's $2,500, and if we could find $10,000 for the Performing Arts Center, I'm sure that we should be able to find $2,500 to keep our ice time in line and put our increases in line with everything else. And I would rather see us do a 2.5% increase in ice time to be consistent with the way the other fees and charges have increased. So I'll throw it out there if anybody's got an appetite to look at that. The motion is on the floor the way it's presented. Councillor Sells.
Worship, just what's the percentage increase that we're actually charging at
At a $30 increase?
Yeah, how much percent is that what they're paying over and above now?
Right now, we are paying $67.
So this is a 50% increase.
Almost.
So I would venture to go with your worship in reducing that fee. I know that we need to bring the fees up in operation of the arena, but in light of the concerns that we do with this.
So what we would need is an amendment to change that to a 2.5% increase, because we already have a motion on the floor, correct? So if you're inclined to say, I'd like to make a friendly amendment that the Grizzlies game time only increases 2.5%, something like, I'd rather you made the motion than me.
Okay. So your worship, I'll
Sorry.
yes.
Your worship, there is no fee currently for game time. So the fee proposed just for the regular junior B team is $68.50, which is a 2.5% increase. So we could just have an amendment to remove the game time fee and just leave it at just the fee for the junior B team. That would be fine as well.
So basically all we're doing is eliminating the game fee, and then the 68.50 is already in there.
Is already in there, yes,
All right.
and we'll just reference it as a junior B team.
Okay. Is that acceptable to you? So he's making an amendment that we are going to remove the game time fee.
Sorry, does the person that made the motion not have to make the amendment?
No? No?
Needs a second there, though.
Yeah. Councilor Brothers second. So what I'm going to do is we're taking discussion on the amendment only, voting on the amendment, and then we'll vote on the amended motion. Okay? So questions on the amendment, which is to remove the game time fee to the Grizzlies and only the hourly fee then would apply. Right? Councilor Brothers.
And the only thing I mentioned is that we are struggling with fees, and we are struggling with making sure that our fees to a certain extent cover some of the operating costs, and we struggle with this in the Parks and Rec committee. So I just want it to be understood that you know, at some point in time we have to reassess this and look at it again, just so that they're aware that it's a possibility that we will look at it again next year or whatever. But I think I take the comments that are made, and I think that's fair in a rebuilding year. Then it's fair to do this.
Discussion on the amendment. Councilor Sauls.
I want to just mention the same thing, or echo what Councilor Brothers said, is that this amendment that we're putting forward is for this situation. This is not going forward where we're not going to look at this again in years to come.
Just like we do everything else.
Exactly.
Questions or comments on the amendment? Councilor Lander.
Yeah, Your Worship, I would say that I'm supportive of the original rationale that was presented in the committee, in the Parks Committee meeting. I'm amenable to an amendment, but I do think that 2.5% is too low. I know I've personally sat down with Mr. Chabot and Ms. Donato with Ryan, looking at ways to work better with the club. One of the outcomes that was, as mentioned earlier this year, was expanding the beer garden over, and we looked at things like advertising and had tabletop sessions, how we can get everything working together. But as we look at our rates and cost recovery for what things cost, I feel it's part of a motion to sort of balance things out and try and work together. It is a significant increase. I would be personally happier with something that was in the middle instead of 2.5%. However, I can live with looking at this again next year and seeing how we're doing the progress on ways to improve the service and ways to improve the relationship.
I just want to remind the councillor that what the actual amendment is to take out the fee for the game fee. So that I understand the point, but I just wanted to be clear what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So we're only talking about the amendment right now. Is there any more discussion on the amendment? Amendment is to take out the fee for the home games. All those in favor? Against? Motion's carried. Councilor Lund voted against. We now have the amended motion, which is adopting the third reading. I had to put my glasses on. To amend the fees and charges first, second, and third reading, and the amended part would be to take out the home group, so that's the amended motion. Discussion on the amended motion. All those in favor? Against? Motion's carried. Councilor Wong leaves. Item B. Anybody want to do that?
I'll bring that forward, Your Worship. The following policies be rescinded. Policy U-1, unsightly premises. Policy D3, development notification signs. Policy D4, development policy. Policy I-1, inclusionary zoning. Policy PB9, informal public information meetings. Policy L3, letter of credit renewals for landscaping. Policy S7, streetscape enhancement. Policy S8, sign and facade design program.
Motion by Councilor Saul, seconded by Councilor Brothers. Discussion on the motion?
Your Worship, this is just a house cleaning thing. These are things we no longer use, and it's just cleaning those up.
Any other comments? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Powerhouse Road lease, Councilor Brothers.
That staff be authorized to advertise notice of the proposed disposition of land for the lease of property 1151 Powerhouse Road for the purpose of a storage compound for a 2-year term with a 1-year renewal option.
Motion by Councilor Brothers, seconded by Councilor English. Discussion on the motion. All those in favor? Against? Motion's carried.
So we're bringing forward 9D, the development permit number DP 2015-16 be approved.
Motion by Councilor Duke, seconded by Councilor Nixon, and Mr. Strachan, you have the presentation for us.
Very briefly, Your Worship.
Thank you.
As noted, it's a development permit application for Downey Sawmills. The application is a number of small projects that they're planning over the next year to 2 years on the facility. Instead of applying for each one individually, we recommended to them to come to council with a comprehensive development permit, including all of the little buildings and components that they're going to be constructing or installing over that time period, so that they just have to apply for the building permits and move forward with those improvements. As noted, it's items for waste as well as for the operation itself. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Mr. Strachan. Any comments, questions from council? Councilor Nixon.
Yes, Your Worship, Councilor Duke, Councilor Stokes, and Mr. Chabot and I went down and toured around Street Sawmills last week, and really running a clean, efficient operation down there, and they're investing back into the community.
Great, thank you. Yes, I've taken that tour in the past, and it's pretty amazing. Any other comments from council? Motion's on the floor. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you.
We'll move forward 9E, the application to amend the zoning bylaw to add a craft distillery as a defined use with parking requirements and add the use to the central business district C1 zone as permitted use be approved.
Motion by Councilor Duke, seconded by Councilor Nixon. Mr. Strachan, you have a presentation on this as well.
Thank you, Your Worship. As noted, this is an application for a specific site, although it is an amendment to the zoning bylaw to include a distillery as an allowable use in the C1 zoning district. The particular use was not envisioned at the time that the C1 was developed. There wasn't legislation in place that allowed for this type of distillery. Microbreweries were also not around at that time as well. So the microbrewery component was added in order for Big Big Brewery to go into that type of location. However, the craft distillery is a newer type of use that the province is now regulated and allowed for. And this particular site would be where they wish to locate. Thank you, Your Worship.
Mrs. Strachan, questions, comments? Councilor Nixon.
Just this is a new type of business that they have one in Kelowna that's doing really well.
Any other comments from council? Motion is on the floor. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you.
I'll move the second component of this, the zoning bylaw text amendment bylaw number 2101 be read a first and second time, and staff be directed to schedule a public hearing.
Motion by Councillor Duke, seconded by Councillor Nixon. Discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Motion is carried.
We'll move forward 9F for the information item provided by the applicant in response to Council's resolution June 9, 2015 be received. And the information item provided by the applicant are forwarded to the Advisory Planning Commission for their review and recommendation to Council.
Motion by Councillor Duke, seconded by Councillor Nixon. And Mr. Strachan, you have a presentation as well here?
Your Worship. So as noted, this is a application that has been previously to council. The city hosted an open house earlier last year, and the community came out in quite strong numbers. We had about 150 people in attendance. As a result of the input that was received, and we did receive written input from close to 100 residents on this application, we asked the developer to prepare a number of study components, including a financial impact assessment, a traffic study, a preliminary infrastructure and servicing study, as well as an environmental report, a parks and trails plan, a waste management plan, and a housing agreement strategy. So you'll note that there's a large volume of reports that are included in your package. The intent of today was to bring this to council, not ask that you make any decisions on it, but allow you the time to digest everything you've received, ask questions of staff if need be, you can ask questions of the developer, seek additional information. Then we would introduce the bylaw at another council meeting where you wouldn't be presented with all of this at once. So there's a number of components, and the developer has provided some slides that we'll send out to council as well that break down more of the information into smaller pieces for you. One of the major questions is the density and how that looks. The idea being there's going to be more units on this site, but a very similar amount of footprint is going to be taking effect. So essentially smaller units, but more of them. So the proposal is inclusive of a number of multifamily as well as single-family components. The progression of density going from closest to Nickel Road at a higher density with some small-scale commercial, going back to single-family and two-family when you get to the outer edge of it. The other component of it that's takes some time to get your mind around is that the idea of the emergence of flexible housing and opportunities that can come in the future for units that would not only be a two-bedroom apartment at one point in time, it could be broken apart in the future to allow for smaller units. So they were asked to look at two pieces. One is what the proposed zoning would look like. The second piece being what it would look like if it was just a standard single-family development. So you'll see a comparative study piece that was, the province put out a new tool, online tool that you could use for this specific purpose to help communities evaluate developments, large-scale residential developments in particular, and see what the impact is financially and on infrastructure over time. And so they're quite lengthy. You'll see that there's one for each of these scenarios, which is one being the CD zone as proposed, the second being if it was just a regular single-family development similar to what's already in this neighborhood. And the comparison comes out quite significant, the difference between the two. Critical pieces are in the type of development that this would be. The city's infrastructure responsibility essentially ends at the property line with this type of development. The roads, the on-site sewer and water lines are the responsibility of the stratas within. Whereas a single-family standard neighborhood, these are now all of our roads to plow, to maintain, to replace over time. So you'll see numbers that actually show that we're in paper losing money on single-family residential development. And that's been an issue that planners and financial people have been talking about for many, many years. It's not really totally representative of the actual case. However, it does represent what happens over time when communities, although we don't pay for any of this infrastructure to be put in, when the time comes to be replacing it, we're going to be the ones that are doing it. So when the developer comes in and puts all these roads, all these sewer lines, all these water lines, development pays for itself. We don't pay for that piece. However, we are the ones that are responsible to plow it, to take care of it, and eventually to replace it. And those costs are significant. So multifamily development or development that takes place within a strata format where those roads and those pipelines and those other pieces are not our responsibility of infrastructure, that cost is taken by those individual residents and relieved from us. In the long term, it makes it a more affordable for the community to have that type of development. The other component of it is related to what you have in the community for housing formats. And the variety of housing formats that we have in Revelstoke, we're fairly limited. There isn't a lot of diverse opportunities for small scale accommodation or units, and certainly not to the small scale that's proposed here. Another critical piece that you'll notice in here is the idea of what this is going to emerge like. So originally we were talking about 1,580 units. They moved it back down to about 1,200 units. But you'll notice in the package there's reference to that's going to be market driven. A lot of that density is associated with the very small units and how the marketplace responds to those small units. If they're very successful, we'll probably end up with more units. However, if the market doesn't respond as predicted, there will likely be less units, but larger units, which is more traditional of what you would see a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom type apartment. So instead of having 3 very small units, you would have one, what we would call a regular style apartment. So that's the significant components of these slides that sort of describe these pieces. And we'll get this out to council as well as to the APC for you to have. It provides a good summary of what's been done. So getting to the studies themselves, there was a number of them completed. The financial impact we touched on, it's the study that was done through that app that the province has. And I will put a caveat on that data. It's not 100%. It's to give a good idea. This is a 10 to 15 year project. The projection out that far, you know, as you see with your financial plan, going 1 year is difficult. Going 10 to 15 years is even more difficult. So those numbers are not to be cast in stone, but do give you a sense on where things will trend over time. The traffic study itself, there's a number of pieces that will take place on it. There's more detailed infrastructure planning that needs to take place. That will happen as part of the master development agreement and the individual development agreement for the phases. So what you're going to see is as the phases roll out, and the developers indicated they're planning on starting in this multi-phase, which is listed as, multifamily, excuse me, which is listed as D on here. What will happen is there'll be a development agreement for that specific phase, but that has to fit into a development agreement for the entire thing. There's a lot of engineering, a lot of design work that has to take place, and thousands of dollars that needs to be spent in order to do that. So we don't, with large projects, we shouldn't ask the developer at this point to do all of that investment in design work until council's made a decision on the project. So what we do is we recommend to council that they register a covenant on title. It's a no-build covenant that has a series of conditions that have to be met in order for them to proceed. One being the registering of a master development agreement. And then that covenant isn't released on each parcel or each segment or each phase until such time as all that documentation and security is in place. We do that for 2 reasons. One is it doesn't require us to design the entire project. By the time we get to phases up in this side here at the end, engineering practice will very well have changed. Requirements will have changed. The standards will have changed. So a development agreement that takes us that far into the future is impractical. The second component of it would require the developer to then provide security for a 15-year project. Providing security in that scenario is not feasible. It's not. It's just the dollar figures are way out. So this is the way we do it. We just essentially release a portion of the property from that no build, no disturb covenant. It's a 219 covenant registered on title. When they've got all of their ducks in a row for that phase. When they finish it, then they have the opportunity to get their securities returned. They can bump those securities forward onto the next phase. The master development agreement is in place in order to make sure that all of the components fit with each other. And the second part of that master development agreement is to ensure that if at any point the project stops, the pieces that have been developed can be maintained on their own. There isn't a requirement for something critical to that development that's not going to be done in their phase. So you don't have development that's left perched. So you wouldn't want to see, for example, the area in the center of this project going first and leaving them perched for road access or trail access or amenity access. So by starting where they're proposing, which is on Nickel Road, and working their way back, those phases will work because the infrastructure is going to draw from the front to the back. So you'll see that there is preliminary studies on infrastructure there, but however, they are fairly preliminary. And although there would be a desire to have a lot more information in those particular areas, there will be the opportunity to have that detailed engineering work, but it won't be until further down the road if the project proceeds. We asked for an environmental report to be conducted. We asked for a registered professional biologist to visit the property and assess what the ecosystems or other features that may be in place. This was in response to concerns that were expressed at the open house, and there is a letter in your package from the RP Bio, a registered professional biologist, indicating that this is mostly a second growth area, not with any significant ecosystems nor with any significant wildlife corridors that would require protection. There was a discussion about a parks and trails plan. However, the parks plan doesn't include any parkland within this area for dedication. So what we're looking at is actually the trails themselves to be provided with a statutory right-of-way over them that would allow for public access on them. So as with the main roadway through the property, there'll be a requirement that they register a stat right-of-way over that as well to allow for emergency vehicles and so forth to move through the property. These trails would be constructed by the developer, would be owned as part of the strata. However, the public would have rights of access to utilize them to get to places such as the school through the property. And that was a critical component that came out of the consultation, is the desire for an access to the school that didn't require the children to go on to Nickel Road. There's limited opportunities for us to expand Nickel Road between the school and this property as a result of the large rock knob that's there. This trail would allow for children to move on the other side of that rock knob and down into the school site safely. That's the parks plan component of it. The waste management plan, there was a concern about bears and so forth with garbage. The waste management plan was quite quickly dealt with when they moved from a can system type scenario to centralized garbage. So there's going to be centralized locations within the development where garbage will be brought to, and those are buildings with large bins inside where you dispose of your waste and recycling materials, and they're picked up. So once you move to that type of a scenario, the concerns with wildlife and so forth, accessing individual garbage cans is not needed. So waste management plan became somewhat redundant at that point once they moved to that commitment to using the centralized garbage system. Housing agreements are a tricky item. What we've recommended is that they move forward with the allowance for housing agreements to be attached to a certain level of density within each zone. The problem with establishing a housing agreement for this scale of project with this 10 to 15 year timeline is you're trying to predict what your housing needs are going to be 10 to 15 years from now. And by doing so, you may be either limiting your opportunity to look at a different housing type or a different format of ownership, but also address the community's needs at that date. So if you attach a certain level of the density to housing agreements within the zoning district, it allows for the council of the day to look at what's in the community, look what the need is, and develop those agreements. Those agreements are, they do have a public process as well as a council process, so council would have the opportunity to participate in those discussions. So those are the 7 items that we had listed. There's a lot of information. I wasn't planning on answering any questions today. However, if any council has a question today, we can certainly try to answer it. But I would encourage you to review it, and I'm available. Please come and see me, and we'll answer any questions you may have. Thank you, Worship.
Councilor Brothers and Councilor.
Just a really broad question. I mean, one of the things that intrigues me about this project is whether or not it helps assist us with our housing, our affordable housing issue in Revelstoke. And do we have an idea that, yes, it will assist us in that regard?
I think that there's two sort of issues there. One is we really don't have a good handle on what our housing situation is. There's a lot of information that's circulating that's quite anecdotal, to be quite honest. We're hoping this year with the OCP, with the housing study, to look more closely at what we have for housing inventory And from that, start to delineate what we have not, like what we're missing in our housing inventory, and begin to project out what those needs are going to be in the future. And that feeds into the OCP, that feeds into those components. Having said that, there are pieces within A and B in particular that we don't have in the market. So if the marketplace is going to absorb those, they will be something new. So we do know that that's going to do something for us. I think the question of affordability is going to be a continuing issue. It's going to be a continuing issue with all resort communities. The desire to be here is going to continue to rise, and the value of land will continue to rise, and the affordability of it is going to continue to rise. What type of housing and what people will accept is also needing to be changed over time as well. And what you see, especially in the interior of the province, is a real desire to have your piece of turf, to have your little backyard or your big backyard or your massive backyard, but to have a backyard of some form, and single-family development is primary. In other markets, you've seen the transfer away from that towards more multifamily type of development. And there's a transition that's difficult for communities in that way. People relocate to the interior of the province to get that piece of turf, to get that single-family dwelling, because they can't afford it in the lower mainland. So when you start trying to move that goalpost for them, it's definitely impactful. So this development is not the answer to our affordable housing in the community, certainly not. Is it going to help over time? Well, it's going to introduce new product into the marketplace that's not there now, which will likely impact it. I think a lot of it's going to be depending on what we come out of the study as far as who's having trouble with getting a place to live in Revelstoke. What time of year is that taking place? Are we really looking at more of an issue of families? Are we looking at more of an issue of employees? Are we looking at seasonal? What is the real numbers associated with this issue? And planners get criticized a little bit for looking very big picture and very far into the future. But without that data to really do that, we really are looking a long ways ahead and not seeing where we're going. So this project, yes, to answer your question, will help, but to what extent, we really don't know yet. And whether it's the answer or not, I wouldn't say it's the complete answer, but it's a start.
Well, I don't think that there is anything that's the complete answer, but I think that the biggest problem that we've had over the years, having sat as chair of the Affordable Housing Society, is that it's basically getting down to supply and demand. And when you don't have enough supply to meet the demand, the affordability factor goes out the window, and people end up living, paying too much. They live in what some people would call substandard, and I've been fighting and pushing for the supply to increase, and that's what this is exactly going to do. And so I think it is going to help. Is it going to solve all the problems? Of course it's not, because affordable housing has to have many facets to it to really make a big impact. But I still think this is going to play a positive role. Councillor Nixon.
Mr. Strachan, when you go to the Advisory Planning Commission, you'll give this report again, but in greater detail to them. But council can come and listen again. And
I think that we won't get any more detail. The detail is there. Likely with the group, we'll do a longer discussion. We do normally go for about 2 hours.
Yes.
I promise I won't take up 2 hours of council's time today.
No.
But there is a need for a lengthy discussion, and there may be a need to go away and come back as well.
And just one further comment is the Earl Heights Elementary School. I call it the little canary in the forest. I think this project is going to help keep that neighborhood school alive. And I see a real synergy between this type of housing and that elementary school.
A couple of comments that I would like to make, if you don't mind, I would jump in here, is I was glad that you pointed out the numbers here, because the numbers do scare some people, but this is going to be a market-driven, the numbers are going to be determined by how the market reacts to it. So again, like you mentioned, is that if 2 and 3 bedrooms are what the market wants, the number of units is drastically going to drop. I think a couple other points about this development that I really like, that I think that they've shown to put a lot of thought and planning into, is that the existing single-family residents are going to be bordered by single-family residents. So what the neighborhood that they built or moved into, they're going to have that in their backyard. And I think that that's really well thought out on this development. And we as a community, with the changes that we've gone through, we've over the years talked about increasing densities, and this is one of those opportunities where we are going to be increasing densities. But there's some real positives to increasing densities, and they're in the fine print up here, but it's reducing the amount of pavement that we have in roads, increasing the amount of green space for parks and trails, and I think that that's going to go a long way to the livability of the community and the surrounding area. So I think there's some real positives here, and we'll see how this project unfolds. I think I covered all the stuff I want to talk about. Councilor Brothers.
Just a question, if I can ask staff, when it does come to the advisory planning committee, can you let council members know so that if we want an opportunity to go and sit and listen and ask questions and that type of thing, gives us a little bit of more availability to have input? Is that possible?
Certainly, the APC agenda appears on your iPad, so we can send out an email reminder.
That would be great if you would, because otherwise it may not be on my calendar, and I understand that it's out there, but if you could just send a reminder, I'd really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Is there any other comments, questions from council? Motions on the floor, basically sending this to advisory planning for comments. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you.
Just a clarification, Your Worship, just so the council's aware. So when it goes to the APC resolution will come back to council and be before the public hearing. So at some point, if the bylaw proceeds, the APC comments will appear as part of your agenda package, if they give any resolutions.
Because we have not set that date yet.
No, you haven't received the bylaw yet.
Okay.
Okay. Moving forward to 9G. I'll move that development activity 2015 year-end report be received.
Motion by Councillor Duke, second by Councillor Nixon. Do you have a presentation on this as well?
Just no presentation, Your Worship, just a few comments on the activity from 2015.
Okay.
It was a modest increase in the number of, or value, excuse me, of building permits. We increased by just over 749,000. So the increase in value was there, but not as substantive as it has been the previous year, where we rose almost 5 million. Of interest is the number of single families that we saw constructed in 2015. That being 15 was the number, which is significant. And the increase in commercial development. So we saw a number of commercial projects go forward in 2015, including the brewery as well as Petro-Canada beginning construction. That's driven those numbers up significantly from 2014. Industrial was reduced. A large chunk of the industrial for 2014 was a project at BC Hydro. So we've seen pretty steady numbers in those areas. However, the big projects do have a habit of bumping numbers around on it significantly and impacting them year to year, limiting the ability for us to predict as well as to see these numbers as a true representation of what's happening in the community. 2016 has started off quite busy. We've seen more permits than we normally do at this time of year, and more development applications than we normally do at this time of year, sort of indicating that we are probably looking at a busy building season coming ahead of us. Thank you, Worship.
Thank you, Mr. Strachan. Any comments or questions? Councillor Nixon.
Just kudos to Mr. Strachan and his staff. You know, when we cut them back in staff a couple of years ago, and I was part of that, sorry. But they have done a lot of work with less personnel.
You're tough.
I know.
Tough. Any other comments or questions from council? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you, Mr. Strachan. Item H, economic development. Go ahead.
That City Council recommend to the Columbia Shuswap Regional District Board that up to $37,500 be allocated from the Economic Opportunity Fund for the rental of airplanes to provide a charter flight service from Vancouver to Revelstoke on 8 weekends during the months of February and March 2017.
Motion by Councillor Brothers, seconded by Councillor Sells. Discussion. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I encourage council to vote in favor of this. This is, I'm hoping, going to be the impetus for getting a regular scheduled air service here in Revelstoke, something that that is going to be good for our tourism economy, it's going to be good for our business economy, it's going to be good for residents to give them another transportation option to get in and out of the community. And it's unfortunate that this is the way that you started, but this is the way you started. And you have to encourage people to come here and invest and schedule their service, and you have to prove to them that it can work. And I'm hoping that it does work, and I hope that the community supports it, and we'll see how it goes. Questions, Councillor Brothers and Councillor Orlando.
The only thing I want to say is thank you, Your Worship, for bringing this forward, because you were the impetus for starting this process off again. We had sort of lost the opportunity of an airline service that fell through the cracks, and Mayor McKee decided that we needed to really take another go at it, and as a result, we've made some progress in this. The unfortunate thing is this year we were caught with time trying to get it all done for February and March, and so we would have liked to have put it in process for this year, or bring it to council for this year, but better we do it a good job at it, make sure it succeeds than rushing it. So thanks again.
Thank you. Councillor Nixon.
So this Economic Opportunity Fund, just so the public's aware, comes from the regional district, am I correct?
Well, it's actually it's a BC Hydro grant for making up for lost economic opportunities with the flooding of the reservoir behind the dam. It's administered through the regional district, but it's and we use this fund in conjunction with the regional district and the Area B director. Oh, sorry, Councillor Orlando.
Your Worship, I'm supportive of this item. I do note that, in my opinion, it's an appropriate use of the Economic Opportunity Fund, and that we have partnerships with RAW and RMR to get this going. So it's good to have if this is successful, a little confidence from the private sector, who will also see this as an economic opportunity generator. So I think it's appropriate to let this fund be used.
Great, thank you. Any other comments, questions? Motion is on the floor. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you. Item I.
Should I do it one at a time? I guess they're all.
Yeah, you should do them separately.
Okay. The City Council endorses the tech strategy dated January 2016 and submitted by the High Tech Task Force.
Motion by Councillor Brothers, seconded by Councillor English. Councillor Nixon.
I just, I'm a little hesitant with the word endorses, because that means we're putting the money behind it. So I'm wondering if we should just receive it today and take it to a strategic planning session with some staff costing attached to what the implications would be if we followed all of the recommendations, which I support in principle, but as the finance chair, I don't know what it's going to cost.
I don't see funding as endorses as funding. I see. Who's going to wordsmith that?
You just received it.
Receive it.
Is that all right with mover and seconder?
I'll also move.
It's already moved. We just we're just changing the motion to receiving the tech strategy submitted. It's all right with the seconder? Okay. Discussion on the motion. All those, Councillor?
Sorry, I'm trying to understand the difference between receiving it and endorsing it. I don't know that endorsing it, there's many items in there, each of which, if they were to be, have a budget implication, would need to be worked through the staff. So that's my concern, is that I don't know if saying we endorse it necessarily means we're funding everything.
Just the history of this table, Your Worship, is we receive and then we prudently look at the costing.
History is that we receive it and then we prudently look at the costing. So I don't see it as a big deal either way, because council is going to be, if there's budget implications, it's coming back to this table for everybody here to approve. I'm looking for any more comments on the motion. Councilor Randall.
I'm happier with endorse, frankly, but
Right now, that's not the motion. Any other comments? You could try to change it if you wanted, it's up to you. I'm going to try to shut it down.
I introducing another motion to put it back to endorse.
Well, I guess the proper way is that you make an amended motion and it gets seconded and was discussed over these previous item. It's up to you. I'm just trying to follow.
Well,
Did the amendment to make it receive rather than endorse carry?
The move, no, because I asked the mover and the seconder, so the mover and seconder changed the motion to receive.
Oh, okay. And the amendment to the original motion. Okay. And yeah, amendment would be in order. And difference between endorse and endorse is to approve, I guess, and receive is simply take it in as information for further consideration.
That's right. Councilor Duke has his hand up, and then Councilor Brothers.
Can we use the word support? Like, I get the idea, because we don't want to just receive it, because we want to stand behind it and say, yeah, we support the work that's been done. But at the end of the day, also the same as, we do support the work that's been done, so what's in there? It's going to move forward in the same step.
Councilor Brothers.
The only thing I would say is if there's any confusion in the word endorse, let's just clear it up now, make sure there's no confusion, and I'm supportive of the word receive. It's good for doing so.
The word on the table is receive. You people out there think it's easy being me, don't you? Is there any motion to change the word receive? I haven't had one yet, and the motion is to receive. Councilor Orlando.
I would move to change it to some middle ground and say support. I think it's important to, if there's no financial difference, to get behind the hard work that the volunteers on this committee did.
Is there a seconder to change the word to support? Are you kidding me?
I'm fine with support.
Support's
And I could just muddy the waters, but I think we should put an end to it. Support could mean financial support, so, you know, I mean, that's where you get into these words, you know?
Just for discussion, I don't have the details. I know that Mr. Sims alluded to requirements, the application requirements on item 3 there. Item 3, the rural dividend program, that it would take some time to get the funding together. So I'm just wondering if receiving the document would leave us hanging and that the potential funding opportunity for.
Except that that's a completely separate motion that actually has action on it, and so that has nothing to do. That motion number 3 is actually a stronger motion of receive, support, and endorse than what we're doing. So that's really where the action item is. So I think that we're going around in circles on this thing here, and I don't see any of them as a big deal, because all we're doing is getting a report that we're going to take under advisement. But the next motion, the third motion actually has, well, the second and third both have action items to them, which I think will send a strong message to the committee that we endorse, support, and receive them. How's that? I think we're making a mountain out of a molehill, and I think we should just go back to the original motion and just leave it. Because there's nothing, council is not going to be spending any money unless they're asked and they approve it. So I don't know.
I'll withdraw my motion to change it to receive.
So we're going back to the original motion is endorse. Is that okay with the mover and the seconder?
Yes.
Yes.
And we don't have any more discussion? All those in favor? Carried.
Oh my goodness.
Number 2.
I was expecting some applause from the audience, actually.
Number 2, that City Council establishes a tech advisory committee to oversee implementation of the tech strategy.
Motion by Councilor Brothers, seconded by Councilor Orlando. Discussion on the motion? Councilor Nixon?
Okay, Your Worship, you're going gonna be mad at me now, because we're going to a strategic planning session to look at our committee structures. We don't even get quorums out to our committees now. And yes, these are good people that have stepped up for this tech advisory committee. They have energy, and I still think it should go to the strategic planning session for planning of all that's in front of us. There, Major Man.
No. And I guess, my first reaction when I saw it is going, well, why can't the high-tech task force be the tech advisory committee and it's all rolled into one, and we're just eliminating a step and they're the same people, and the chair's nodding in agreement. Councillor Orlando.
Your Worship, the high-tech task force had a limited mandate, I think, of 1 calendar year. So they expire in a couple months. So the idea is to create something moving forward with an ongoing committee. And I'm sure, I believe the general discussion was it would be more of an advisory function. So if there was a question, purely advisory function, so if there was a question, we can meet. We didn't really have a desire, or the committee didn't really seem, the existing members didn't have a desire for it to be a every month committee, but more of an advisory committee that meets every now and then.
Do we have a motion seconder on this? Yeah, we do, okay. I just want to make sure we talk about discussion, yes.
And I think Councillor Nixon's quite right. This should be part of our strategic planning, and we should have it in there. But I think the committee has done a tremendous job so far, so let's keep them involved in case we need them.
So, you're fine. Discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Motion's carried.
Number 3, that the City of Revelstoke make application for funding to the new provincial rural dividend program to implement the tech strategy in Revelstoke.
Motion by Councillor Brothers, seconded by Councillor Sauls. Discussion? No discussion. Councillor Nixon.
Does the provincial rural dividend program exist yet?
Doesn't matter. As soon as it exists, we're going to be applying for it.
So when it exists?
Yeah. Is there any more discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you.
Number 4, there's one more. That the City Council write to the members of the High Tech Strategy Task Force, thanking them for their work in developing the tech strategy.
Motion by Councillor Brothers, seconded by Councillor Nixon. Any discussion on this one? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you. Future friendly. Health advisory.
That the report from the Director of Community Economic Development dated January 18, 2016 regarding the recommendation from the Health Advisory Committee read Big Eddy water system be received.
Motion by Councillor Brothers, seconded by Councillor Nixon. Councillor Nixon?
I just want to thank you, Your Worship, for coming out and meeting with the Health Committee. They had questions about the status of the Big Eddy water system, and they were very supportive of that system being improved for the general health and well-being of the residents of the Big Eddy neighborhood.
Yeah, thank you. And Councillor Nixon asked me to go to, they wanted an update on the process and how they were doing and the outcomes, and they were extremely supportive and wanted to encourage the Big Eddy residents to look at the information and basically to sign the petition in favor. And I think there's a memo attached that everybody can see. Any more discussion on the motion? Councillor Orlando.
Your Worship, just to comment, I thank the Health Advisory Committee for putting this before Council. I know our discussions about the Big Eddy waterworks are often on engineering or technical or finance-related issues, but in my mind, health is the number one issue. We have, in my opinion, a great opportunity to have better engineer new facilities with professional management plans, and I think that's all great for health outcomes for the residents of the Big Eddy.
Thank you. Any comments? And thank you for the invitation to Councilor Nixon. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Visual Arts Center.
Yes, Your Worship, I'll bring forward the council authorized staff to obtain an appraisal for insurance purposes of the Visual Arts Center located on Wilson Street.
Motion by Councilor Nixon, seconded by Councilor Sauls. Discussion?
This is just part of our asset management of a building that exists, that is a group that's doing good work in the community and ensuring their building at just replacement value, but you want to look at what full replacement value would be on that building.
Yeah. Discussion on the motion. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you. Item L.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll bring that forward, that Revelstoke Mountain Resort is authorized to set off professional grade fireworks on February 6th and February 13th, 2016, following any terms and conditions relating to life safety as determined by the fire chief, and that RMR follows all requirements of the federal explosive regulations. 2013 Part 18 display fireworks.
Motion by Councilor English, seconded by Councilor Sauls, and this similar to what they've done over the last couple of years in getting the approvals and following all the rules and regulations that are appropriate. Any more discussion? Councilor English.
Just a free fireworks show that the citizens of Revelstoke can come up and have a look at. It's great that RMR is working hand in hand with Chief Gerard to make sure that everybody has an enjoyable and safe fireworks show for their family day long weekend.
Any other questions, comments? All those in favor? Motion's carried. And thanks, Chief, for putting this through. Correspondence, air quality monitor response letter from Ministry of Environment. Yes, Ms. Levesque.
Sorry I interrupted. Sorry. Carry on.
You guys want to make a motion? Do you have anything, Brad? No, just vote. Nobody has any action on that first item of correspondence. On the Stoke Youth Network support request, Councilor Nixon.
Yes. Just that council write a letter of support in principle that Community Connections is the lead on this proposal going forward. This is
We have a motion and seconded by Councilor Sauls.
This is a really good integrated youth health team in town that are doing some really, really good work with the physicians engaged on the team. And they're looking at an opportunity for some funding from the province. There will only be one community picked in each health region. So this is an opportunity that they want to get ready to apply for. So certainly support them.
Thank you. Any more discussion on the motion, Councilor Sauls?
I just want to make mention that I too feel this is a great opportunity to support a program going forward. I have supported this with a letter from my own business, and there's people involved and community connections, and I think it's a worthwhile going forward. Something that the community can definitely stand behind.
Any more comments or questions on the motion? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you. Moving into communications, does anybody have anything they want to bring out of the Housing Society minutes of December the 7th?
Yeah, just in the Housing Society minutes, it's talking about moving forward with Eagle Homes. Just cautioning as
There's some items there that have to be looked at, so I would say that process is slowed down.
Okay, I just don't want to see us competing with the private sector more than we need to.
And if anything was going on, we'd be coming back to this table for approval. Okay. Sorry if I cut you off. Any items anybody wants to bring out of the Finance Committee minutes of December the 8th? We're so polite here. Parks and Rec and Culture minutes of December the 8th. Development Services minutes of December the 10th and January the 14th. High-Tech Task Force minutes of December the 16th. Fire Rescue Services and Fire Prevention month-end reports of November and December. Fire Rescue Services Annual Report 2015. And Parks and Rec Culture month-end reports of December 31st. I'm going to take questions from the media.
None from me today, Your Worship.
Oh, what?
Maybe Alex has some.
Alex?
No, nothing, sorry.
What?
I think I lost.
You're off the hook.
Yeah. I have some budget ones, which I'm waiting on. but-
Okay, so what we're going to do now is that we are not going to go in camera. We're going to take a 3-minute break. We're going to go back into our Finance Committee meeting, budget meeting, and then we'll go into in-camera to finish up. So take a
Motion to adjourn this meeting. We have the special meeting for later today to be reconvened.